Hey guys, this is your first video for your quadratic formula reloop activity. What we noticed is a lot of you guys do a really great job of plugging in all of your A, B's, and C's into the quadratic formula, but once you start to get down to the simplifying part, that's kind of the part where we're struggling just a little bit. So if you didn't have it already down packed, or if maybe you could use a little bit of polishing on some of your answers, here is another great opportunity for you to hone your skills. So this piece would be a section where I've plugged everything in, and every time my answers are getting down to this point. Now is the time where we want to start simplifying our quadratic formula fractions here. The first thing I want to do is my b value, that's 6, the opposite of b, plus or minus, square root piece would come next, all over 2. That's going to stay consistent until we can start to do some scratch work for this piece underneath the radical. So what I want to do is I want to take that square root of a negative 24 and I want to break that down all the way. I want to simplify my radical as much as possible. Well, as a reminder, I cannot have a negative underneath my radical. There is nothing, no number times itself, that's going to get me a negative underneath the radical and give me an answer with a radical. Excuse me, a negative. So what I want to do is every time I see that negative, I'm going to pull it out and it's going to represent an imaginary number I. A more formal definition would be the square root of negative 1 equals I. And that is why we can do that, because essentially what we're doing is multiplying negative 1 times the square root of 24, and those are now equal. But you don't necessarily have to write that every time now that you know that. Every time you see the negative, you just need to be able to pull out that negative and pull out the I. So now that I have my I here, I out in front, I can treat this radical square root of 24 as a regular radical that we would simplify using prime factorization or a factor trace. So 24 can break down into, let's do 4 and 6. Now both of those can keep factoring down into 2 and 2. Since I've broken it down, I'm going to cross it out so I don't get confused with all the numbers. And then 6 can break down also into 2 and 3. And those would be multiplying. So now, because I'm taking a square root, I'm going to circle all of my pairs of numbers. Now my 2 and my 3 here, they're lonesome. They don't have anyone to pair up with. So those guys are going to remultiply back underneath the radical because they weren't able to come out. So essentially, this pair of 2's that I've circled, one of them is going to come out. My I value comes after it. And then the square root of 2 times 3, because they were by themselves, would give me 6. Now I can take that from my scratch work and plug it back into the simplified part. So 2I root 6. Now, the key piece here is how I take my fraction down even further, especially with these complex numbers. I want to look at all of my numbers in these 3 positions. I don't care about my I anymore, and I don't care about anything underneath the radical since I've already simplified it all the way down. I can essentially ignore those now. These 3 numbers that I've circled in green, if there is a number, a GCF, that can go into all 3 of those, and in this case, my GCF is going to be 2, so I can divide all of those by 2 and get a further simplified fraction here. So 6 divided by 2 is going to leave me with a 3. I have a plus and a minus. 2 divided by 2 is just a 1. Root 6. And then a 2 divided by 2 is just going to give me 1. So everything over 1. And this is my simplified answer. Now, I will caution you, just as an FYI, plus and a minus does mean that I'm going to have 2 different answers. You will have 3 plus 5 root 6. Hopefully you write yours a little bit neater. And a 3 minus I root 6. You have 2 different complex solutions there. You can write it as the singular plus minus in red there, or you can write it twice with pink values. You have any questions or further questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Refer to the key as you need to, and happy simplifying.